Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Santa Clara City Council meeting. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our statement of values? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with the strength and courage and the will to perform our obligations and duties to people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interest of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so that we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, Assistant City Clerk.
Vice Mayor Hardy.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Watanabe.
Here.
Councilmember Shahal.
Here.
And Mayor Gilmore.
Here.
Thank you. May I read the statement?
Yes, please.
AB 23 announcement. Members of the Santa Clara Stadium Authority, Sports and Open Space Authority, and Housing Authority are entitled to receive $30 for each attended meeting. Statement of behavioral standards. The City of Santa Clara has adopted a code of ethics and values and behavioral standards for public meetings to promote and maintain the highest levels of conduct. This includes mutual respect, robust discussion, and allowing city business to be done in an efficient and consistent manner. Please note that as the presiding officer, the mayor's direction in matters of process and decorum should be followed, and that use of the gavel indicates all conversations must conclude and everyone in attendance should come to order and attention. Welcome and thank you for your participation.
Thank you so much for that. Next, we have reports of action taken in closed session. We are actually going to adjourn to closed session after this this just opening business that we have, and then we will come out after closed session and talk about if we do take any action or just to adjourn the meeting. So we are taking our closed session at after our city business. And so I'm going to, before we go to continuances and exception, I wanted to say good afternoon. There is a hollow sound in this chamber. It's very empty, if you can see, of chairs and other people at the moment. So we are taking the unprecedented steps for the safety of everyone who might participate in today's meetings as we comply with the County of Santa Clara's Public Health Department's order and guidance to prevent and slow the spread of the novel coronavirus, or COVID-19, as many of us have been hearing about. I want to thank all the Santa Clarans out there for all of your efforts in following the very serious precautions and steps that we are all now taking as we all shelter in place and only conduct essential activities that are critical for the safety and health of our community. We are practicing social distancing during this public health emergency. As you can see, all of us here, we're in all areas of the dais here. And this is important because I expect the council to ratify our city manager, Deanna Santana's proclamation of a local and state emergency that was issued last Wednesday, March 11th. And I want to thank the city manager for taking that swift action. It's allowed us to do a lot of the things that we've done just in the last few days. So you'll see that there are very few of us in the city council chambers right now. We're asking that no more than 10 people at once be in here in accordance with the recommendation of the COVID-19 White House Task Force. So staff are positioned at the door as we allow one member of the public at a time to enter the council chambers. And so I will also give extra time in case the public takes a little time to get back in here. And I know we have our cafeteria open as well for public members that will be able to participate. So we'll give a little extra time during public presentations if our members of our public need to come to the council chambers. So in addition to the social distancing that we have. All of us in city government have been practicing frequent hand washing and environmental cleaning, as the public health community has frequently reminded us to do. So let's move on to the first item on the agenda, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about this. I see we have special guests as well today. So our first special order of business is action on a resolution ratifying the proclamation of existence of a local emergency by the Director of Emergency Services. So I think we'll start with the city manager.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. For your consideration this afternoon is the ratification of the local state of emergency that I, as the city's Director of Emergency Services, proclaimed on March 11th in response to the growing COVID-19 outbreak in the city of Santa Clara and Santa Clara County. Prior to that, on March 2nd, we began to plan for continuity of essential services. So by the time we were filing on March 11th, the proclamation of a local state of emergency, we were already designating what our essential services would be. Per city charter, the city council must ratify this action within 7 days, which is why you have the item on your agenda today. Proclaiming a state of emergency will help ensure the city's continuity of essential service operations in response to the growing public health threat. During times of local emergency, all city employees may be called upon to serve as disaster service workers, and this means that employees may be assigned to duties that aren't part of their everyday job duties in order to help with the provisions of essential services in our community. Much has happened this past week, and the city of Santa Clara continues to take an informed and aggressive approach in responding to the coronavirus. This approach is based on the orders and guidance provided by the County of Santa Clara Public Health Department, combined with the expertise of our own emergency response staff. We have prioritized the health and welfare of our employees and the public above all else. As you know, yesterday, the County of Santa Clara, along with 6 other Bay Area jurisdictions, released a shelter-in-place order for residents. Yesterday, my executive leadership team spent a large part of their day implementing what the orders mean for each department and for the city of Santa Clara and operationalizing them. This order, along with previous state, local, federal recommendations and other orders, all inform the move the city provided for essential services only, starting today, March 17th. I just want to go through a couple of slides of information that we've been pushing out. This is an example of what you'll see on the door. It's a notice of we're closed until further notice, numbers for people to call, and departments, as well as the contact information. This is a brochure that we began passing out today, just so that at a glance, any member of the community could have a quick understanding of what the definition in the city of Santa Clara of essential services is, by department, by service, as well as a key contact number. The Small Business Administration has also put out a large number of resources, and I want to pay particular focus on the chart here, which is, there's a big arrow here, but we have this posted on our website because it provides people with information for workers' compensation, sick leave, unemployment insurance, paid family leave, and disability insurance. And we've been receiving a lot of questions, and so we want to make sure that it's quickly available for anyone that needs those resources. Just for the council's awareness, all of our department directors are currently on conference line with the city council meeting, to respond to any questions you have related to their respective departments and the essential services we still have in place. And I'll just back that up to this slide here. For example, right now, as mentioned earlier in the mayor's message, we still have fire and police, electricity, water and sewer, and other essential services. We have been keeping our community informed at santaclaraca.gov coronavirus updates, where the public can find details about programming and event changes, as well as city contact information while we are providing essential services. Communications has been a critical and key part to our deployment strategy. I want to take a moment to thank our employees and our community who have been supportive during the very unprecedented time. The city recognizes how challenging this period has been, and while the duration of time is unknown, the city will continue to provide as many essential services as possible. At this time, I can confirm that we do have a staff member who has tested positive for COVID-19 and others who are at home self-monitoring. Please keep our staff in your prayers as we continue to provide public services during the shelter in place. I also can confirm that 17 new cases were identified by the county, bringing our total up to 155. As always, we will continue to keep the public informed as we navigate this public health emergency together. With that, I would also like to personally thank Lisa Schoenthal, our Emergency Services Manager, as well as the City Council for all of your leadership and support with this effort, and we are now available for questions.
Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager, and we really appreciate, I know how you have been in contact with all the City Council and constant communication, and you and the staff. We really appreciate how
bombarding.
you showed that leadership on that. And I know it's an unprecedented time, but I think we are coming together as a community and as a staff, as a city manager, leadership, and Lisa over here in charge of the emergency. So we really appreciate what you're doing and keeping us in loop for all the communication. And I thank my colleagues over here who have been constantly in touch with all of us and with the city and as such. I do have a request if we can incorporate that in our emergency ordinance we are trying to do today. So many of the cities have done the moratorium on the evictions for the renters, and it has like a lot of pretty big population of our city falls under that category. None of us as a council is a renter, but if we can take care of that, because so many of cities have done it. San Jose has done it, and Oakland is trying to do it, probably done it or doing it, and San Francisco, San Diego, Hayward. So if we can incorporate that moratorium on the eviction of the renters in the community for at least 30 days, and we can look at later date, if we can make it a part and parcel of the emergency ordinance, that would be great. That's my request on this particular ordinance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis.
Well, thank you, and happy St. Patrick's Day. This is a new one for us, believe me.
We wouldn't have noticed looking at you.
Sorry.
No.
I have to celebrate. Well, look at Teresa. She looks like a leprechaun. Okay. City Manager, I just want to say that I know that this has been a round-the-clock thing for you, and I received a lot of compliments about how the information was being, just put out in whatever shape that you've gotten it where it needs to be, that some businesses and a lot of people wanted me to tell you that they thought you did an amazing job of getting the word out. And I know, Lisa, you're all part of that because we're on the EOC together. So we kind of know where you have to get that information and how to disseminate it quickly. And so there were people that just wanted to compliment you because they live in different cities and they weren't getting the same outreach that we were giving our people. So I have to commend you on that. I know you all weren't sleeping that well, and it was like a drive-by. Everything was coming at you instantaneously, updates and whatnot, but I applaud you for what you've done. It is unprecedented, but I just think that, you got the information out. We're in the stay area, but I think now we will be going into the minutia a little bit on how we can help people out. And I know that Kathy's been kind of working on some things along with the mayor to help our people in need. So I know going forward that this is going to be a continuous for the next 3 weeks, maybe plus, I'm not sure. But if we can continue the good job that we are doing and that you are doing, because you're making us look real good, we're able to have conversations with people out there and kind of keep the panic down a little bit. We're still there, but I think that people are feeling a little bit more calm as what's going on. And also our leadership with our mayor has been unprecedented with her little video bites. I saw her office, she's set up and ready to go. It's like working in a TV room. So I appreciate everything that Lisa has done for us. And you, Lisa, I think that what's happening is probably the best thing that we can do. And just going forward, we just need to keep our residents safe. So I thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to say something that, one thing that has come up, and I think it's going to come up even more as these days and weeks go on, is that there's going to be more and more food insecurity out there. And one of the things that I'd like us to do, and I've spoken to the city manager about this yesterday, and she's really done a lot of work on it already in terms of thinking up ideas of what we can do, is to supplement the food service to children and families in need in Santa Clara, as well as our seniors, or the people that we have in need. And the city manager mentioned, of course, we have a convention center. We have a convention center staff and food staff. We have a facility there that's, fairly accessible. It's not being used right now for any other purposes. And I know we talked a little bit about how we would finance that. I would ask Deanna to talk about that. But I think that we need to look at how we can get food to the people, the very needy people in our community that could potentially be very hungry through these days. I mean, and if anyone's been to the grocery store lately, it's a war, it's a battle out there, which is another one of our issues and problems, is trying to keep the peace, to tell people not to hoard food and other things, because the food source is still going to keep coming. But some of the most vulnerable families in our community may have, a parent or a grandparent that's taking care of the children that may have, lost their job. They could be on minimum wage jobs or low-paying jobs that are forced to stay home now with the children, and there's just not enough food in the house, and there's really not even enough storage capacity for the food in the house. So I think that it's our responsibility to really take care of our community, and the basic thing that our community needs at this time is food. And so, city manager, could you talk a little bit about that? And I've talked to Councilmember Watanabe about this, because this would be in her district, and I know she has been very involved. And I want to hear, because I know you were at the food distribution today for the school children. I want to hear about that, so hopefully you can talk about that. Let's go to you, Councilmember Watanabe, first, and then to the city manager about funding an overtaking like this. Like, what would it mean, and what kind of volunteers would we need? Because we're talking about implementing a volunteer program in the city. There's a lot of people out there that really want to help. Maybe they can help us with distributing the food, and there's so many other needs out there. So, Councilmember Watanabe, I know you were at the lunch giveaway today.
Right. Yes.
So do you mind talking about that?
No, not
Okay.
at all, Mayor. No, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and just to give my thanks, just to express my thanks to the city manager and also to Lisa Schoenthal for your leadership and just constant communication. I mean, it really means a lot, and I hear it from the residents in my district and my community. They just so appreciate just the constant updates, and they just feel like it's they're in the loop. Because at this time, everybody needs to feel safe, and that we're going to get through this. So these messages definitely help. But also, before the shutdown of the schools came about, I know there was a program put in place amongst 5 of the schools in the district and Santa Clara Unified, and I just happened to go by one of them today, and it's at Don Calajon School, which is right in my neighborhood, and I made a point to go by because they were going to be distributing food between 11 and 1, and I had seen last night that the program had changed, so I made a point to go by, and about 11:30 today, and the food nutrition services were there and passing out the food, and they had apparently enough for 50 families. And this was at about 11:30, and at 11:30 the food was gone. And I said to them, well, what's going to happen? Can they go to other sites? And they said, yes, they can go to other sites, but here these people have been planning, and now they're going to have to go someplace else. The other concern is the way the program has been set up, and is that they were receiving all of their food in one day to last them for the entire week. And there's a concern there because there are lots of family members. We don't know how long that food is going to last. So anyway, I spoke with the mayor, and I gave her, let her know what I had observed and from my talking, and I did reach out to the school district as well so that they knew that what I had come across. And I mean, I know in times like this, it's hard to gauge, but how many people are going to respond, and obviously a lot of people are responding, and we have a lot of children. I think there's over 15,000 kids in this school district. So, and what percentage of that? I mean, and there are quite a few Title I schools and children that are participating in the free breakfasts and lunches. So it's very important that, that they continue their nutrition. And so anything that we can do as a city, I constantly hear from parents, residents saying, what can I do to help? I'm ready to volunteer. Please let me know what I can do to help. So I know there is a wonderful cadre of residents that are willing and able to help whatever they can do during these trying times. So all you have to do is just let me know, but I know that there are a lot of people just ready to help and do whatever they can to see us through.
Thanks, City Manager. Oh, wait,
So
I don't know who's talking, but
if you're on the line, can you please
can you
mute your
mute?
phone?
yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that we heard of this problem not through Councilmember Watanabe, but because Santa Clara is sufficiently small that when a council member calls a school district, it gets into the city manager's office. And so when we
Just
heard
like
of that, we were immediately able to touch base. I called the mayor to just acknowledge it, and then I had learned that you had already started to try to understand what was happening. The nice thing about the city of Santa Clara is that we do have assets, world-class assets, where we can tap into our resources and our facilities and look at how we can convert them into entertainment to just crisis delivery. And as part of the convention center operator's contract, we do have, if you recall, as part of the negotiation strategy, we were wise back then to work with our provider for a $750,000 community benefit. There's a lot of details that we need to look at that benefit, but it is a go-to opportunity for us to look at how to utilize that in a time of great need. I am aware that there wasn't enough lunches passed out, but we have a larger need with respect to vulnerable communities and seniors, as well as the children and the method. While the school district here opted to pass out lunches once a week and breakfasts once a week, there is the option of doing daily services, which they did not. However, we can look at logistics and operations that allow for us to provide some daily service and a weekend bag that it will cover people or bridge people until they can pick up lunches and breakfasts on Monday, which is their day of distribution. So we're starting to craft a program together that would tap into our resources and facilities, but at the same time allow for us to fill and supplement the gap. I do want to speak to the issue of volunteers, because the folks would be working with children. There are lots of screening that would need to take place in order to bring people who want to offer a good deed. And so our first if we are to look at how we would program this, we would first go to our staff, of course, that are shelter in place, that are disaster recovery staff that we could pull back, as well as those members of our volunteers that have already signed up with the city of Santa Clara and have been sufficiently screened. So for purposes of ramping up, that would be our first tier, while other people who want to join on the volunteer effort could go through the processes, not recognizing how fast state governments or federal governments would move in a time when you have to secure those items of safety. So we are working on, as I just mentioned, some form of a program. Ruth and Cynthia, a lot of people have been on the phone today trying to figure out how we could, as soon as the call was made. I do want to say that there is some confusion in terms of time. The county's order was through April 7th. The president spoke last night or yesterday of looking at a July-August timeframe, and earlier today at the county level for food purposes and programs, they were looking at a 12-week program. So we need to understand the duration of time that we would be able to fill this gap and what's truly sustainable within the city of Santa Clara. So we're on it. We'll have more details as soon as we can offer some level of service.
Thank you. Even talking today with the people at the senior center in terms of the lunches that the city provides over there, and I think it's through funding with the county and other things, but you can call and make a reservation at the senior center. They have a limited number of walk-in, food packages that you can have, but if you call in to the senior center, you can get, but even that is a Monday through Friday. And I know people do like to eat on the weekends, and I think as the shelter in place is in effect and other things, that it's more critical than ever. And thank you for reminding me, we have a huge volunteer base, people that had to get fingerprinted, all of us, to work at the Arts and Wine Festival and all the other activities. We had Super Bowl activity, lots of things. We should have a very healthy group in there. And then if it's, would it be, picking up packages of food at the convention center and dropping them at people's doorsteps, or, those kinds of things I'm sure that we can work out. But I would think because it's a food nature, we'd have to do this as quickly as we can as the time goes on and people are, in their houses for longer periods of time, and especially with their children, they're going to get really hungry. So the quicker we can move on this, the better. And then we talked about today other volunteer opportunities. If we have a way of harnessing the volunteers, which we'll all work on, but it's just like doing wellness checks on seniors. And someone I talked to today said, yes, I did a wellness check, a call to a senior citizen in Santa Clara, making sure they were okay, but it was like a 15-minute call. And so as isolation takes place and people are alone, it's good to have, maybe we can get our youth commissioners to make phone calls to our seniors or something like that they can check on them and give them a little connection so they're not so isolated, and find out what their needs are. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can volunteer. It's just harnessing all the volunteers to get them, to these programs. But I've seen there's a lot of negative things that are going on, but if you watch social media and Nextdoor and all this, all of a sudden there's some really good offers out there of people. We had Tony and Alba's that offered free pizza for those over 70 if you can't get out. I mean, there's the businesses will walk it out to your car if you take your to-go bag. We'll bring it to your car so you don't even have to get out. And so people are really stepping up right now and helping. But my concern really is these families and getting them fed, because I think on the lunch programs in the school district, isn't there about 5,000 families or 5,000 children that are in need? It's a huge percentage of just that one school district. We do have a couple other school districts in town. We can't forget that. So we have Cupertino and Campbell School District. But if we can get these kids and their families fed, I think we should prioritize that if we can. If we could use the community benefit money, that's great. If not, maybe we look for something else. But I think we have the assets, we have the people, and we have the ability to do it. And we can move a lot faster than the federal government. Whatever our constraints are, I'm sure we can find ways to overcome them to get, the need out there. And then I was going to ask, Councilmember Chahal brought up the eviction, and I seem to have read something just today about Governor Newsom. Didn't he do a statewide eviction? I think it's a statewide thing right now. So I don't want to duplicate what's already happening statewide. So can we get more information on that too? I thought an order came down, just like, things change by the hour. So
I think they
forget what
removed
hours.
barriers. It's still up to the local jurisdictions, I
Okay,
think.
well, thank you.
And
but
we're
let's get
following and
information on that
researching
too.
already what's happening out there.
Food and housing, of course, those are our basic needs. Councilmember O'Neill.
Okay, for one thing, I'd echo all the concerns, and it's great. I mean, I think some of this, it shows when some of these things happen, we have a lot of very willing people. I think we have to go back a few years ago. I had brought up trying to get people more into neighborhood associations, something beyond like next door or whatever. And I think when these things come up, it shows that, like I was years ago in a group of people who went through emergency response training, but if you're scattered all over the place and if you don't have a little bit of structure, it's kind of sometimes hard to marshal those resources when you need to have them. But on the food thing, and one of the things I'd like to encourage everybody to donate as soon as you can to Second Harvest Food Bank of our local entity, because they've been short on volunteers and they've been short on resources. So that's one way to help is to, sometimes it's rather than bringing food someplace is to like donate to Second Harvest so that they've got a lot of infrastructure in place that we could most likely tap into. And I know some of the issues probably that the school district is going through in terms of probably they were trying to scale for the kids that are registered in the food program, and there are probably other members of the family that are needing the assistance, and so that can be challenging. And also I have been in communication with our city manager and city attorney about the eviction thing. And I think one of the things, and I do think at this point, I'm hoping the federal government does move quickly so that perhaps that we'll see whatever stimulus, whatever aid they're going to bring in terms of, because I think we're going to have problems all over the place of people with making their rent payments, but there's also going to be, small landlords that, may have issues, and people who may be then very much confronted with, making their own mortgage payments and stuff. So we've got a broader scope of a problem. So one thing will be to, if we can get some information, if the Senate can go along, can work with the House and the President to get something out quickly, that will help. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that we have to work on, but we kind of have to look at a little bit of the totality. But I agree, the first priority, of course, is to get people fed. So, Second Harvest Food Bank, people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chahal?
Thank you, Mayor. On the food part, I think, can we coordinate with school district? Because as a city, we do not know who are on the list of school district, and probably they will not give us the list. But can we ask school district to let them know that city is planning this program so that we can give them the venue as well as what we are doing? And they probably can directly correspond with those people, because they will not give us the information who are the families who need the food. But it would be good. That's my suggestion on that.
That's correct. We have been in contact with the school district all day, and they are agreeable to sharing the information about the availability of food through their normal mechanisms.
Yeah, thank you. And on the other part, on the moratorium on eviction, Madam Mayor, I think some of the assembly members has brought this forward, but it has not passed the House yet, assembly session yet. Mm-hmm. So right now I think it's up to the local jurisdiction, and some other cities have done it.
I think, and Councilmember O'Neill made a point, it's a two-sided coin for those that don't want to be evicted and those that can't make their mortgage payments, because I'm hearing from both sides. So I think if we do something like that, I think we have to bring it back for, is it an emergency ordinance?
We
What
would
is
need
it?
a report of an ordinance and things of that sort.
Yeah. But your microphone, City Attorney? Is it on? Oh, it needs to be red, I think. It's the opposite.
No, it's too green.
I think it's supposed to be green.
It's not working. Okay.
In general, the state has preempted the area of landlord-tenant law. So there's very little that, in terms of actual controlling of evictions or stopping evictions or changing the unlawful detainer process, there's not that much that a local city can do. There are certain noticing requirements you can do. I will definitely be available to report back either at the next council meeting or after. Cannot enact an ordinance today. There's no ordinance before us. I don't have any anything. It's not part of this proclamation. The other factor is that it's my understanding that at least in Santa Clara County, the Superior Court is, the civil division of the Superior Court is not really much of anything. So it, okay, there we go.
Now we can.
So it's my understanding that the civil division of the Superior Court is pretty much dealing only with their essential type procedures because of they're still in our county as well. And I think even in the criminal court and the family court, they're only dealing with the most exigent circumstances in terms of criminal trials and maybe domestic violence orders and things like that. So as a practical matter, I'm not sure that any landlord could obtain a writ of eviction anytime soon anyway. So in terms of keeping people in their homes, I think we will look at it, but I don't think it's an immediate danger for most people. Of course, there are the issues of the money. I hear a lot of things about what HUD might be doing and what monies might be available. I think we need to really kind of look at all that information and get back to you with what the various moving parts of the situation are. And I certainly think as a public meeting today, we could all call upon landlords. Please don't throw anybody out on the street in times like these. We will try to work with you to make sure that you can pay your mortgages. We're, calling on the federal government to assist, but in a spirit of other people volunteering to help people out in a difficult situation, I think the last thing we would expect to see in Santa Clara is landlords throwing people out on the street. That's not what people need, and they don't even need the threat of it. They don't even need a 3-day notice. I think we would call upon the landlords to, work with their tenants, recognizing that we're in an unprecedented situation.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else, City Manager? Do you need any, besides approval of this ratifying the resolution, do you need any other direction from us on the food issue, especially about what we need to do?
Not at this time. Under the local emergency, I do have some additional authority, and I can report out where we're at on the March 24th agenda.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask, is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this issue? You can please come forward. Hello.
I just had a quick question to know if the City of Santa Clara knows how many cases are confirmed within city limits itself, and then to confirm the numbers of employees that have a confirmed case. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Schoenthal.
I'm Lisa Schoenthal, the city's emergency services coordinator. It is common public health practice, in particular in California, the county public health jurisdictions do not commonly identify the cities where the confirmed cases are located. We just know today that there are 155 confirmed cases within Santa Clara County. And we have one city employee, a Santa Clara police officer, who has been confirmed positive for COVID-19.
And we did send out a press release on that, I think, was that yesterday? Yes, thank you. That's a question we all get a lot of. People want to know where these are, if there's certain hotspots in the county, and that's the answer I always give. They don't tell us for a lot of reasons, I guess. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Do we know if there's anyone in the cafeteria?
No.
There's nobody else in the cafeteria? Okay. So first of all, I want to thank you to our emergency services coordinator, Lisa Schoenthal. You've done an amazing job, so thank you for your exceptional leadership and guidance through this unprecedented time in our city's history. I know that the majority of us, or if not all of us, had a tour recently before any of this of the Emergency Center, Operations Center, and you let us know, how prepared Santa Clara was for, we didn't know what kind of emergency. We all assume earthquakes or, other kinds of acts. Nobody, I don't think I ever imagined it would be something like this, but the fact that you're so prepared and, our lives are in your hands right now for all the good things that you've done. That's a lot of pressure, I know that, but you're just amazing to what you've done in your team, being so prepared. It's just so admirable. Thank you so much. And to our city manager, who I start getting texts about 5 o'clock in the morning and then about 2 o'clock in the morning at night. So I don't know if you've slept in the last couple of weeks. The days are all blending together, but the amount of communication that you give us as elected leaders is incredible, because people are looking to us for answers. And the more information you give us, the more we can educate our public, and mainly not to panic in this situation that, if we don't have the answer, we can get it fairly quickly. And, this is such a fluid situation, and you're steering us through this, so well. So thank you so much for all the time and effort, and your staff, and how professional everything has been, because it's just like when, we talked about the food. I mean, you're like, okay, well, maybe we can do this and this and this, and let's get these babies fed. I mean, I remember you said, we need to feed the babies. I said, yes, we need to feed the babies and their families and their moms and dads and their, whoever else we need to, because now's the time for us to come together. So thank you for your leadership. I know it's not ended. We're still have a lot of uncharted waters, but so far, I feel very comfortable that we can get through this.
I want to acknowledge the city council took an action and expressed in January how important communications was. And you have invested in those communications. And the reason why we're having high information flow out to the community as well as to the city council is because we have departments who heard and listened to that and pushed the information through Lenka Wright and the communications team. That chain of command and the resources that you have put in place, huge thanks to the communications team who's under Lenka Wright's direction, as well as to the department directors who heard that message firsthand when the council discussed it, and your investment in communications. That has been key, and it was a wise call last year to begin that more robust investment in communications, and it shows why. So thank you, council, and thank you to Lenka Wright and communications team and the department directors.
And sometimes the communications is not always positive. We have to get out whatever positive, negative, whatever it is, just getting out the facts, I think, is important for us to do, so that our community really understands what we're facing. And sometimes we don't have the answers to these questions, but we're doing the best we can.
I think that's an excellent point, because I'll be a little more informal or casual. This transition, while we are pushing out a lot of information, it's not smooth, it's not perfect, but there is a lot of hard work that is transitioning to get it to a more stable place. And I have made that real clear in our morning and daily calls with the executive leadership team, is that we know what our goals and our mission are, and no one right now is expecting perfection. We will eventually get to a more stable set, but we're working and we're rowing in the right direction. And with that, I believe things are going pretty well under the series of conditions that we're facing.
And our staff has all come together, and you go through City Hall. There's such a dedicated and loyal staff to even be here and working under these conditions when they could be home with their families. Just the fact that they're here, it shows the community that we care, and especially our public safety workers who are out there on the front lines of what's happening. I mean, this is not a great time, but they're still here and working and giving back to the community. I mean, we are a large community with a lot of people, but we're still a small town in terms of the connections that we all have and the feelings that we have for people's safety and health. So thank you all for everything that you've done and for keeping us this far apart from each other right now for so many reasons. All right, do I have a motion on this? Is there a motion? Oh, Councilmember Watanabe, did you have another comment? I see your name's up here.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to just ask Lisa a question because I'm getting some community requests asking about, I mean, we get the updates, from, the numbers in the county. And I get some comments from some residents saying that they're not coming fast enough. What's going on? Are these numbers accurate? And, and then as we see the numbers go up, they're asking, how many hospital beds do we have dedicated? And is the ICU capacity enough? And questions like that, I understand where they're coming from because they hear what's going on around the world. Who can we refer residents to answer those questions?
Thank you, Councilmember Watanabe. Residents may call 211 to get public information, but not everything you just asked about is public information, with the exception of the numbers of confirmed cases. Every day, we can report the numbers today as they were effective last night at 5 o'clock. So the 155 number was accurate last night at 5 o'clock, late afternoon yesterday. They also break them down, it was 155 confirmed cases, 56 of those were hospitalized. There were 4 deaths up until now, very sadly. And of those 155, 70 of those were presumed to be community transmission. They'll break the numbers down a bit further. So we can get that information we posted this information on our own city website, but it's also at the County Public Health Department website. Yeah. As far as hospital capacity, I think it's important for the community to reflect that one of the reasons we have taken such drastic measures, the collective we in Santa Clara County and the other 6 counties, is that we're protecting our elderly, we know that, our people at higher risk with underlying health conditions, but we're also doing this to maintain the capacity of the healthcare system. Yeah. So it is very labor intensive to treat infectious disease. There are specific hospital rooms devoted just for isolation for infectious disease. So one of the reasons we're doing this is to slow the transmission. The hospital capacity is sufficient right now, and so our approach right now is having people shelter in place so that the transmission spread will be slow, and the hospital systems will be able to keep up. So the goal is for every patient to get the standard of care, and right now that is happening. The County Emergency Medical Services Agency is the one that tracks those beds and knows when surge plans or hospital plans to increase the ability to treat incoming patients need to be implemented.
Thank you very much, and I hope everybody that's listening will have an additional comfort level as well to know that, our city and our county are, there's a reason why everything is being done to make sure that, the ICU is not overwhelmed and our medical system is not overwhelmed as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Davis.
Mayor, I wanted to make the motion, but it just says to adopt the resolution ratifying the proclamation of existence of a local emergency by the Director of Emergency Services. Is that good?
That's a motion.
Yeah, is that the motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any other comments? Please register your vote. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you for all the reports. Next, we have, continuances and exceptions. So, I should have taken that earlier, but is there a motion to continue the balance of the meeting to the March 24th meeting?
So
All
moved.
the items for action?
So moved. You're talking about the public hearing stuff, correct?
All the
I'm talking
consent
about
calendar and the public hearing
the
items.
rest of the meeting.
Okay,
Well, and we will notice it as a joint session.
okay, motion to continue.
Is it the 31st or the 24th? Because it says here it's the 31st. The 24th. Okay.
So it's a motion to continue
I would second
the
that.
rest of the items until March 24th.
24th. Yes.
And we have a motion and a second. So, Councilmember O'Neill, you had a comment or question? No. No? Any member of the public? Anyone outside? Sue, no one's outside, and no one downstairs? Okay, so there's no public comment on the continuance. So we have a motion second. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. So our next item is to adjourn to closed session.
Madam Mayor, you never called for public presentations. I think,
I thought I did in the beginning, did I not?
I don't recall you did.
Almost positive I did, but I'll call them again.
I'm assuming there's no
Oh.
one downstairs. I think you called for public comment on the declaration, but not general.
Oh, no, I did in the very beginning.
Okay, I'm
Did I,
sorry,
city manager? I'm pretty, hold on, let me look at my notes. Yeah, I called it right before continuances and exceptions, but I'll do it again, just in case, to be safe. Are there any public presentations? Okay, seeing none. Before we adjourn to closed session, and we will be back to adjourn the meeting after that, I think it's time for us to adjourn. Should we do the closed sessions now for the, yes, let's do that. We have, later on in the evening, we will be adjourning the meeting in memory of the following individuals. I think we should do it now, right? Okay. The first I'll read is Commodore Krishan Kumar Garg, and from the Indian Navy. He's the father of Gaurav Garg, City of Santa Clara Director of Information Technology. Commander Krishan Kumar Garg was born on August 24th, 1934, in Haryana, India. One of the brightest students in his class, he was selected for entry into the Mercantile Marine Training Ship Differin in 1951, being the first student of his school to be accepted. Upon completing his training, he was selected by the Indian National Defense Academy in 1953. Commissioned as a naval officer in 1956 in the executive branch of the Indian Navy, he held various ranks from commander, captain, and finally commodore. Throughout his 38 years of service, he continued to hold great passion for serving his country, including being deployed in several wars. After retirement, he commanded merchant ships of India and traveled the world over from 1990 to 1995, including San Francisco, Stockton, Long Beach, Astoria, Oregon, and Vancouver, Canada. He then became the first ex-Dufferin cadet and ex-naval officer to be teaching faculty for the Government of India Merchant Navy Academy, where he imparted knowledge of navigation and seamanship to cadets from 1996 to 2001. Commodore Garg held many titles, including trustee of Kandla Port Trust from 1978 to 1980, trustee of Mumbai Port Trust from 1987 to 1988, member of Security Association of India, and held memberships in the Maritime Institution and the Maritime Foundation of India. He was an active poet, writer, and contributed his writings extensively to various periodicals, including the Indian Naval Quarterdeck magazine. He traveled to the U.S. extensively and loved the American fun-loving spirit and humor embedded in the work culture. Commodore Garg lived a full life of devotion to his country, his family, and friends. He passed away on February 15th, 2020. He will forever be cherished by his wife of 58 years, Prem, along with sons Gaurav and Mohit, daughters-in-law Alka and Rupali, and grandchildren Avika, Ashka, and Mehar. Sorry, Gaurav, for the loss of your father. Secondly, we'd like to adjourn this meeting in the memory of Eileen Mary Crane, a longtime resident of Santa Clara. Eileen Mary Crane was born on March 11th, 1935. In 1962, she moved to Santa Clara with her husband, Frank Crane, who took a job with NASA Ames Research Center. They raised 6 children, all of whom attended Santa Clara Public Schools. Eileen worked at Santa Clara University for 20 years, where she was also a mom to the many students who were away from home. She passed away on February 24th, 2020. She will be greatly missed by her family and friends, and she was just an incredible woman. And I went to school with her daughter, Colleen, at Booksher High School, and where their family all attended Booksher High School. She was an amazing lady, so sorry for the Crane family. And then I'd like to turn to Councilmember Teresa O'Neill to talk about Mrs. Calajon.
I'm very sorry to have to read this evening an adjournment in memory and honor of Claire Calajon, a longtime resident of Santa Clara and a mentor and friend to me. Claire Calajon was born in the Mission District of San Francisco. She won the San Francisco Parks and Recreation Tennis Championship at age 12. And that's, Claire had her accomplishments, and sometimes she felt like she was in the shadow of her brother, Charlie, who played professional baseball, was a member of the Yankees behind Yogi Berra, and you know, coached, I think he still actually does some coaching and scouting for Major League Baseball. But Claire had a lot of her own athletic accomplishments, too. At age 18, she moved to her family's ranch in Milpitas and attended San Jose State University. She graduated in 1952, 6 months after marrying Don Calajon. Claire spent an inordinate amount of time attending the athletic events of her brother Charlie and her children, to whom she was devoted, and also her grandsons also. Always engaged with her community, Claire campaigned for Santa Clara candidates for school board and city council, supported women running for Congress, and made calls for Barack Obama in 2008. She served as the chair of the Santa Clara Schools Foundation, was a March of Dimes precinct captain, and taught English as a second language. She loved travel, and highlights included many trips to Maui, Europe, and Australia, camping with friends in the Sierras, and multiple visits to her maternal homeland, Ireland. She loved the beach and passed that love to her children. Clara was an avid reader, an active member of the Book Bags, a fantastic neighbor. We went a number of times to her National Night Out party that she hosted at her home. A loving and thoughtful friend, daughter, wife, sister, mom, aunt, and nana. Claire passed away on March 11th, 2020. She is survived by her husband, Don, her daughter, Donna, sons Chuck and Rick, grandsons Davis, and step-grandchildren Carly and Mark. We will miss you, Claire. You were irreplaceable.
Sure was. Sure is in all of our hearts. So we will come back and adjourn in their memory, and now we are going to adjourn to closed session. We'll be back after to close the meeting. Thank you.